Well, everybody, I've got a special guest today. His name is Randy. You might know Randy Clark. You might know him as goforitRandy on YouTube and elsewhere. He's kind of a UFO researcher slash experiencer, and he has some incredible photos he's taken of orbs and things. Has a pretty interesting story to tell how it all started. But to start with, I think we're going to play a video from YouTube, which I'm going to go full screen and share that with you guys in just 1 second here. And get rid of this screen. And we'll have his commentary in just a second. So it's about a 2-minute video, a little less than 2 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are not alone on Earth. In 1988, about 30 years ago, I looked up in the sky and saw these UFOs hovering above this high-rise buildings that I was standing on. And I was about 8 stories off the ground. I'm looking straight up, and I see 100 of these UFOs just hovering there. Now, these are like beach ball size white orbs that are very intelligent. Now, here's myself on a patio here with about 1,000 of these orbs behind me. These are what I call light orbs. They're a smaller version of the UFOs that you see in the sky in the middle of the day and at night. But these are light orbs, and they are advanced beings. They're intelligent, and they literally can go through walls. They come in all different shapes and sizes, ladies and gentlemen. We have interdimensional beings here on Earth that are living here 24 hours a day. Beings like this is like an angelic type being, sphere-shaped objects that are orbs, and these fairy-type looking beings, and these rainbow-like beings that are just like every color of the rainbow. And there's also giants. Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. There are literally giants that are over 5 stories tall right here on Earth today in 2018, walking this Earth in another dimension. So I'm here to share this new reality for a lot of you that have never heard about the interdimensional beings that are here on Earth 24 hours a day. Ladies and gentlemen,
awesome.
Let me unmute my mic there. So that was a very interesting kind of a intro, or as you call it, a promo video. So as the people probably can see, we've got a few screenshots that we're going to ultimately share in a minute. But Randy, I mean, where do we start? You want to show the screenshots? You want to tell the story?
Why don't I start off with a story, and we'll get it going with that. The last 30 years of my life have just been absolutely mind-blowing, incredible, amazing, off the charts. I literally have been seeing UFOs for 30 years now, and it started back in 1988 in Los Angeles, California, where I grew up. And I was literally working, I had my own business, and I was working on top of a high-rise building, a 7-story building. I'm up on the roof all by myself 30 years ago. And I happen to look up, and I see literally about 100 UFOs hovering above the building that I was on top of. And again, this is 1988. And back then, there were no UFO shows like we have today. You didn't have all of this, you know, just massive influx of UFOs on TV and in commercials and pretty much in our everyday life. Back then, they were hardly talked about back then. In fact, there was maybe 1 or 2 shows that I had seen, maybe 3 or 4 shows maybe in my lifetime prior to that, of UFOs on, like In Search Of or something like that on TV, one of those old shows from the 70s or something. So I had no clue that there was anything like what I had seen in the sky that day, because there was 100 of these bright white objects, like you saw, spherical shaped orbs that are beach ball size orbs, you know, at least 3 feet. I'm not sure exactly how big they are. I'm just guessing, but I'm assuming by the size and the altitude and everything that they have to be at least 5–10 feet across. So they're pretty good size. Now, I don't know if there's any actual beings that are inside them, or if there's like a UFO inside the actual electromagnetic field that it's inside of. I'm not sure. They're very mysterious to me to this day. But I've had encounters where I saw them up close, and I saw that they were spinning, like there's some kind of an energy field underneath the actual spherical UFO. And it turns, I'm not sure which direction it turns, I forget. But 30 years ago, I got awakened to the fact that we are not alone on Earth. So for the last 30 years, I have totally known that we have advanced beings that are visiting this Earth. And at the time, it was mind-blowing. I'm sitting there just like, you've got to be kidding me. What is this, you know? And I spent about 15 minutes there just like with my jaw on the floor, like looking up into the sky at 100 UFOs. And it was blowing my mind completely. And you don't have any, there's no one that can teach you how to accept something like that in reality when it happens in real time. But that just absolutely blew my mind. So that's what started this whole thing off 30 years ago in Los Angeles. And from that moment on, something happened. And now that I know more about interdimensional beings, the last 5 years, I've literally been living with interdimensional beings around me 365 days a year. So I know what they're capable of. I know what they can do. And I'm very certain that 30 years ago, when those UFOs were up in the sky, I'm pretty sure that they sent some kind of an interdimensional emissaries or something down to greet me, something on in another dimension or something, because from that moment on, my life changed. I literally became this like evangelist for UFOs. I told every single person I ran into about this UFO encounter that I had. And
is that when the orbs start showing up right after that, or was that later?
It was much later after that. Okay. So that actually, these were orbs, but they weren't like the little light orbs like you see in photographs that people take. Those are what I call light orbs. The kind of orbs I'm talking about are huge orbs that appear to be UFOs that are could have like a human in it for all I know. You never know. Who knows what's inside those actual orbs, those giant ones. But they're huge. These light orbs came into my life about 5 years ago. But back up 30 years ago, I saw these 100 UFOs, and from that moment on, every once in a while, I would just look up and, whoa, there's a UFO, and I would see a white spherical object like you saw in the beginning there with all those orbs in the sky up there in the blue sky. And I just would look at them, and I just kept seeing them out year, not every year, but I'd go sometimes a few years without seeing them. And then in 2004, I had another just massively mind-blowing, probably the best sighting I've ever had. And this was in Los Angeles, California as well. I went out my back door onto my patio, and I looked up, and sure enough, there's an orb hovering up in the sky about 1/4 mile away. And I'm just like, wow. Okay, this time, the first time I was up on a high-rise building, and I couldn't see them as well because they're up in the sky. This time I'm like, I'm going in to get some binoculars this time. So I ran into the house, grabbed some binoculars, came out, and fortunately it was still there. And I looked at it, and I'm looking at it through the binoculars now. So I'm seeing this thing crystal clear. It was just this big white round orb hovering in the sky about 1/4 mile above my head there. And I'm like, wow, this is incredible. And I literally could see it, the bottom of it rotating. So the bottom half of the orb was turning, and that blew me away. But I don't know if I mentally thought this or if I literally said it, but either way, pretty mind-blowing. But I literally said or thought in my head, man, I'd like to see these things, you know, like move out, because the first time I had the sighting in 30 years earlier, I literally stood there for 15 minutes. They did nothing. They just hovered up in the sky there. And so when I went downstairs that day 30 years ago, when I hit the bottom floor, I wanted to go show someone. And I went out to the building, in front of the building, and there was only 2 orbs up there. So they had left, and I didn't get a chance to see them all take off or anything. So that first encounter 30 years ago, the guy that went up on top of the roof that day wasn't the same guy who came down. Okay, I was totally changed from that moment on. So that's why these UFOs kept popping up. And then 2004, this one's hovering, and I'm just like, wow. And I'm like, I wish this thing would do something amazing. And it hovered right there. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, these 2 UFOs come flying by and pass right above the main UFO and go flying like that. And I'm just like, whoa, that blew my mind. And I'm like, wow, I wish I could see this one go to this mountain range that's like 10 miles away. And all of a sudden, within a few seconds, this thing starts taking off slowly, and then it just hauls. And it starts going at about 1,000 miles an hour. And it reached that mountain range in about 5 to 10 seconds. I'm not sure. It was very quick. And so that blew my mind away. That's not the end of it. And I'm just like, whoa. Then, all of a sudden, I look up, and I see these objects start floating over my head about 50 feet. So they sent some kind of objects that were flat, and they were like multicolored, every color in the rainbow.
How thin,
they were about,
do you think?
They were probably about 1/4 of an inch, maybe.
Wow.
And they were about 3 feet wide, 2 feet deep. So just kind of like a big sign or something like that, but just colored every color of the rainbow. Just like if you took a spray can and just sprayed little circles and stuff all around it, every color, yellow, green, pink, purple, everything you could think of. And these things just like hovered over me very slowly at about 2-3 miles an hour, just kind of looking at me, and about 50 feet, 75 feet above my head. And about 10 of them just went flying by, one after another. And I don't know what they were doing, but at that time I knew, okay, they know me and they know where I live.
And they're listening, and yeah, clearly.
And they can understand us. Either they understand English, and either they can read our mind, or I'm not sure. I was so excited I probably was just saying this stuff out loud. But I don't recall saying anything. So either they were reading my mind or something. But anyway you look at it, they were far enough away. I don't know how they could have heard me even if I was talking. So that blew my mind away. So then I knew, okay, these guys know who I am. They know where I live. And that wasn't the end of that story. So I saw these flat objects kind of go down the driveway. And at the end of the driveway is this 3-story building, and went right over the 3-story building out of sight. And I'm like, wow, that was pretty cool. And then I go look up, is there anything else up? And sure enough, there was. Then there was this other formation of like a V formation of, I don't know what these were, but they were like a V shape, either a craft, because the wings did not move. They were stationary. And there was about 10 of these in a formation. So I think those might have been military, because they looked like they were camouflaged with like what military planes would have on them, military type camouflage. But I'm not 100% sure on that. But with all that activity, someone probably sent up some birds up there to go take a look at what was going on. But that was the most mind-blowing experience right there in 2004. And then the very next year, I moved to Arizona from California. And then guess what happened in 2005? I see the Phoenix lights show up.
Yep.
Now, they originally showed up in 1987, and then they have just progressively shown up. Not every year, but people have sightings of the Phoenix lights. I've had several sightings of them. But in 2005, another big sighting with the UFOs with the Phoenix lights here in Phoenix. And that one I actually was on the news, the Channel 3 news with that one. And they interviewed me, and it was just, I knew there was something going on, because what I saw and what they put up on the screen was 2 different versions. So I knew that there was a couple things that they wanted me to say that I refused to say. So I knew that the media was liars. And from that moment on, I'm like, okay, I'm not giving any more interviews to the media, the mainstream media. So since 2005, I've refused to give any kind of interviews. And I've had several, National Geographic's Discovery Channel. In fact, I've been on several of those. They've actually put me in some of those without my permission. But literally, I refuse to give interviews anymore to any mainstream media, because I know they are not telling the truth, and they put in fabricated information into the story.
What you say.
Yeah. So that was basically that's where it all started, and then it just progressed from there.
Now,
do you have any questions?
Yeah, tell me about. I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought at one point, not too awfully long ago, you kind of had a thought, or like you said, either I said it out loud or I thought it. Man, I wish these orbs would come down. And next thing you know, from that day forward.
Yeah.
Orbs are everywhere.
What happened was I literally, since 1988, I've been seeing UFOs in the sky every once in a while. And then in 2013, a good friend of mine who's into taking EVPs, these voice messages from ghosts and stuff. And she took some photographs of light orbs, the photos where you take your photo and, oh, wow, there's an orb in my picture. And so she was in her backyard and she took a couple of photos, and I'm just like, whoa, are you kidding me? I just couldn't believe that she took these photos in her backyard. And I had heard, I knew about light orbs before, but I'd seen them, I used to watch Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures and all those for years. And, they'd have, one orb go fly through the room, and I'd be like, oh, whoa, that was so cool. Look at that orb go through the room. And I used to think that was pretty cool. And then, and so 2013 rolls around. I didn't know much about light orbs. And my friend had taken photos. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go out on my patio tonight. and I'm going to take photos of orbs, because I was 1,000% certain if UFOs can read my mind, I figure these light orbs that are right next to me could easily read my mind. So I went out on my patio. This was August 6, 2013, and the first 2 photographs, nothing. And then 18 seconds later, I took my very first orb photograph. I call it the blue avocado. It was literally, looks like cut an avocado in half, and it's like made like a blue avocado with a heart in the center. That's kind of what it looked like. And from that moment on, I literally have been 100% connected with the orbs. And I literally, every photograph I take has orbs in them. So what happened was, the first day there was only about 20 orbs showed up. The second day, again, about 20 orbs showed up. But on the third day, thousands of orbs showed up. And that just absolutely blew my whole paradigm of reality. Because when I saw 100 UFOs in the sky, I thought that was mind-blowing. In fact, you know, most people never see 100 UFOs if they see UFOs. But that's very rare to see sightings with 100 UFOs. In fact, the sightings, I was one of the first people to ever witness those kind of UFOs in 1988. 4 years later, they saw them in Mexico. They had a big sighting, a wave of these UFOs.
I remember that.
Clusters of UFOs with hundreds of UFOs in them. But that didn't start happening until around 1992 in Mexico City. So this was in Los Angeles, California in 1988. So I was well awake a long time ago, and it just progressively has just gotten to the point where, you know, I know it's going down here on a level that most can't even begin to imagine. But it started with the light orbs in 2013, and I literally went out there 18 seconds later, got my first orb photo, and then these thousands showed up, and that's what blew my mind, because I knew that wasn't normal to have 1,000. 100 was not normal, but 1,000 is like, okay, something is going on there. This is a moment. So I literally, in that moment, I asked, hey, are you God? And nothing happened. No one said anything back to me. And I said, well, if you can heal my body, will you please heal my body? And instantly, I started feeling this energy come into my body. And all of a sudden, my body was filled up with this energy. And oh my gosh, it felt
you had a
so
back problem,
awesome.
right?
Yeah, I had a massive back problem. I had, I literally was housebound. I mean, I could walk and stuff, but I couldn't walk to my mailbox for 10 years. I'd only been to my mailbox 5 times. It's about 100 yards away from my house. So literally the only way I could go there is to drive down there. I could walk, but one time I had an experience where I literally, my back went out on me in the house, and I hit the floor, and I laid there for 3 days before I picked myself up to go to the bathroom for the first time. So literally, that's how bad my back was. So I wasn't willing to risk going down to 100 yards because my back could go out on me, and literally you'd have to have an ambulance come pick me up. So that's how bad my back was. I weighed over 400 pounds, and literally I was instantly healed of that back problem. The very next day, I walked out the door, and I walked for about a mile. That was about as far as I could walk, simply because my muscles were not able to handle the walking. I literally had to retrain my muscles. Because everywhere I'd been walking before, if it didn't have a cart, I couldn't go to that store unless I had a cart to kind of hold me up, because I didn't want to walk around with one of those walkers. So anyways, that's where I started. My 2013, I got healed that day, and my back has been healed. And over the next 2 years, from 2013, over the next 2 years, I lost 140 pounds without dieting. Drinking Coca-Cola or anything I want to drink. Here's one of my drinks right here that I drink right now. You can get these at Walmart, but this is IBC root beer. It has real sugar in it, and so I've been drinking real sugar drinks with real sugar, not the high fructose kind. Yeah. But yeah, I lost 140 pounds, and all I did was walk my dog for a walk, maybe a mile or two every day. And wow, how do you lose 140 pounds, especially eating anything you want, pizzas, anything? So that's kind of what started this whole thing. Was 5 years ago, I got connected with these light orbs. And from that moment on, I literally have been connected with this other realm, these interdimensional beings. And I'm here to tell you, we are not alone on Earth, because they are around us 365 days a year, around people like me in massive numbers. But just everyday people, everyone has these things around them. They're flying through the air, they're going through your house. They're checking us out. I'm not sure exactly to this day I'm probably the #1 expert on orbs today and UFOs. I'm pretty sure I have more experience with UFOs than almost anyone else on Earth right now. I have photographs of close to 1 million interdimensional beings on camera. I have them on video. So it's been an incredible journey, and it just from there it just escalated into all kinds of different things. But that's kind of where I started, Joe. 5 years ago, all of a sudden these interdimensional beings came into my life, and now they've been in my life, and it just I'm going to share with you what kind of interdimensional beings started showing up, because they go from very tiny to gigantic giants. So it's been an incredible ride, but that's kind of what happened, Joe. It's just the last 5 years, this amazing interdimensional connection took place, and I literally I was downloaded a bunch of information too, by the way. I really should tell you about this. When it first happened on the patio that night, it was August 8th, 2013. I don't know what happened, but some kind of information was downloaded to me, or visions, I'm not sure. But for the next 3 weeks, I was like energized, like the Energizer Bunny. I didn't have to sleep. I slept maybe 2 or 3 hours a night because I had all this energy. And I'm 56 years old. My doctor told me that, if I made it to 50 years old, I'd be lucky because I was over 400 pounds. And I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. My resting heart rate used to be 92 beats per minute. My resting heart rate, the last time I checked, which was a couple of years ago, was right around 47. Wow. So, but now that's with mentally lowering it down. It's literally in the lower 50 range. But something physically changed. My body has changed. I've been completely, like I said, my whole body got healed 5 years ago. And today I'm 56 years old. I'm doing things that 20-year-olds do. I go climbing in Sedona, and I go climbing up rock faces that are 4 stories high with no ropes, and just grabbing onto, the cracks like the professional rock guys do. And, it's life or death. You fall, you're dead. You're either dead or you've got broken bones and you're seriously messed up. So what happened was I literally, all the fear that I had, because I had been watching Alex Jones, and, I was checking out the economy years ago. I knew all about the collateralized debt obligations and how all that stuff brought, had the big bubble and all, and the real estate bubble that popped in 2008. So I was very well aware of what was going on in the economy. I was also very well aware of, the New World Order and all the other BS going on with that, and what they would do, once they did collapse the economy. So, I had this very pessimistic view of the future. It was like, oh my gosh, I was depressed. I literally walked out into the desert and started digging a hole, because I thought, man, I need to have some place to go to, when things go down. And that's where I was at back then. I was just totally fearful of what was going to happen in our future. And all of that changed on 2013 when this happened, because from that moment on, all of that fear I had just vanished. And I literally stopped living in fear. I literally stopped thinking about the things that I was thinking about all day long. And so I stopped watching Alex Jones. That was the first thing I did, was I canceled my subscription to his channel and stopped watching all of that stuff for the last 5 years. I've been watching it the last, say, 3 years, got a little bit more back into it. But for the first couple of years, I literally avoided that big time. And so I was searching for answers. When this first happened 5 years ago, I'm like, what's the deal here? I can take photographs with literally thousands of orbs in them. And so I'm searching for answers. Well, who knows answers? And I started looking into the New Age, because they seem to have answers about stuff like this. And I started looking into that, and, started finding out about what's going on there, met a bunch of friends and stuff. So I got into the New Age stuff. I didn't get into any of that kind of stuff. So that's one thing that, I never did any of the New Age type stuff. Never did the tarot card reading or the going to mediums or meditating. I've never meditated in my life. So I wanted to find out, because I literally have spiritual gifts that have happened since 2013. When that happened, when I got healed, I literally had spiritual gifts. One of the things that happened was I was literally able to connect other people with the orbs. And again, I had this download or whatever. I'm not sure exactly how it happened, but I hooked up my brother. I said, hey, touch my hand. And he touched my hand. And then all of a sudden he could take orb photos. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. And so I started doing that with people. And every single person that touched my hands was now able to take photographs of orbs who had never taken photographs of orbs before. So that was a mind-blowing experience too, as well. And I literally started hooking people up. Whoever
you can still do that today?
Yes, I can still do it today. Yes.
So like, if I happen to be out in the neighborhood one day, hey Randy, man, Snippy over here, can give me a little high five?
It would take no less than 10 seconds. Wow. Literally, people can just literally touch my hand. They put their left hand on my hand here, and they take their right hand with the camera. And while they're touching my hand, they can take photos. They literally will show up in their photos. And then once they've taken the photos, they're like connected with orbs, and they can take photos. I've literally connected people at seminars where I was at I went to an Abraham Hicks seminar because I wanted to find out what's going on with this stuff. So she was like one of the first, quote unquote, New Age gurus that I met. And so I went to, before I found her online, and I'm just like, oh wow, I've got to meet this gal. And I look down, I go, I wonder if she's giving seminars somewhere. I go look, find out, well, she's coming to Phoenix 7 days later. So 7 days later, I'm like, I'm going to go meet her at that seminar. I went to her seminar, and the way it works at her seminars are, you have like 300 people or so in the audience. And she literally has the ability to see auras and things like that, energy. So she literally looks for the highest vibrational people in the crowd. So whoever has this high vibration, she can actually see that with her eyes. So I literally walked in there and I wanted to test her because I knew I had a high vibration, higher than anyone I've ever met. And I said, okay, I'm going to test her and see if she's who she is. And so for the first hour and a half, I was just sitting there and just kind of lowered my energy down as low as I could. And for about an hour and a half, nothing. And then I said, okay, it's time to test her. And I literally turned my energy up instantly. And I swear, the moment that happened, I think because I was next to her, if you're near people, if you're in any kind of area with someone, just in their energy field, sometimes I believe you can pick up on things that they can do. That's why I believe I'm able to transfer the ability to take photographs of orbs to other people who are in my energy field. So I don't even have to touch them, to be honest with you. If someone just stands near me now, they can take photographs of orbs. So just being inside my energy field. So because of that, I picked up on what she can do, because she's actually able to connect with beings from another dimension. She calls them Abraham, and they're some kind of spirits or something, but she's able to just like connect with them mentally, and they give her guidance and stuff. But what happened to me was when that happened, when I pumped up my energy, instantly I got the first like mental telepathy, and it was, Randy, she's going to pick you, but you're not going to be able to finish. And as soon as that thought hit my brain, I don't even know how I was able to mentally turn that into words, but somehow I did. She turned around for the first time in an hour and a half, looked right at me and said, you're the one, come up on stage. And so she brought me up on stage, and she was blown away. I brought up a photograph and showed her a photograph of these thousands of orbs. And she was absolutely blown away. She said, yeah, this is proving the kind of that you have a super high vibration, because nobody can take photographs like I take. In fact, there are people that can, but very few. I actually know maybe a handful of people in the world right now who can take photographs of orbs with literally thousands like I can. But it was incredible. Can we click up one of those photos?
Yeah.
Let me see that.
You want the,
I think it was number 2.
Okay, let's do that one.
Yeah, like here's one right here. You clearly can see there's thousands of photographs of orbs in this one, and there's, they look like every color of the rainbow. You got pink, purple, green, yellow, orange.
And if you look at some of them, I mean, talk about a classic perfect orb. It's got the little thing in the middle.
Yeah, they have the circle. Yeah, they have a circle in the center of them. But yeah, if there's another one too. Can you click on that other photograph, the one below that? I think. Yeah, here's my favorite photograph that I've taken. In the center there, you see that boulder in the center? Well, about 6 feet above that boulder, you'll see a pink orb. That's like the best pink orb that I've taken out of this whole time. But it was super bright pink, and then you got the blues and every color. But yeah, I literally was out in the middle of the Sonoran Desert, and I took this photograph. And when this happened, I was just like blown away, because this was the most amazing photograph that I've personally taken to date. I've taken lots of photographs that are similar to this, but it's so rare to get the colors. I don't know what they have to do. But most of the time, they're kind of a monotone, kind of a pale light, either white or a light blue or a grayish kind of color. But very rare to get these bright colors like this. So I was the first person that I know of that ever really showed photographs like this of orbs that have these beautiful colors in them. I never saw these kind of photographs till I started taking them and showing them to everyone 5 years ago. And I took this photograph in 2013. This is one of the first actually, this is the very first time that I took a really beautiful orb photograph. And you know, kind of like a photographer would, I tried to get it a nice location, and they showed up. So that's the thing. And what it is, I call this like an orb tsunami. It's literally like a wall of orbs in front of me. It's kind of like, imagine if you were standing next to, you know, 20, 30 feet away from the Great Wall of China. That's what it looks to me. It looks like the wall is just made out of these orbs. So, and when this happens, when I get thousands of orbs like this, it's like I can feel the energy. It's like this amazing energy comes into me. And so that was another thing that was kind of a mind-blowing thing. The energy that I have felt and stuff over the years, as far as
this is interesting. You're at a kind of a interesting rock formation where this happened.
Yeah.
This is out in the desert somewhere?
Yeah, this is in the Sonoran Desert here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And this is like up on top of a hill. And behind there, you can see a tree behind the boulder there. That's a tree that's about another 50 feet beyond it. And you can see orbs are inside the tree over there as well. So,
yeah, they're just way out there. They're really, really tiny, like little specks of sand. So it's just like, oh my God, how many? There's probably millions of these things here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know how many's in this photograph, but certainly several thousand orbs in this photograph, and they just keep going on. And I have photographs up on top of mountains where literally the whole sky is filled with orbs. So it's just mind-blowing when you're there to see this in person. And the funny thing is that I've gotten photos similar to this when I have other people with me, but for some reason they only allow me, like it only happens where they have like thousands and thousands of them like this. It's usually only happened when I've been by myself. Whenever I've had someone with me, and that was a funny thing too, because like the orbs have been kind of teaching me things, or someone's teaching me, I don't know, but like they're training me. They were in the beginning, they were kind of training me to know certain things. So the first time that I was trying to hook up a friend of mine, I actually have a friend of mine who was a New Ager who lived down the street, and she's like, oh, can you connect me? I'm like, sure. And so she came over and I hooked her up, and so I would literally take my camera and I would take a photograph, and there would be like 1,000 orbs there, literally. I hand my camera to her and she would take a photograph, there would be 20 orbs there. She'd hand it back to me, I'd take a photo, 1,000 orbs. Hand it back to her, 25 orbs. You know, so I saw this and I'm like, okay, there's something going on. Like the orbs wanted me to know, like I have some kind of major connection with them. And so I don't understand why, but I just know I literally am connected to the orbs on some kind of deep level, that I can literally connect other people with orbs. And they show up, and they have been showing up every single day, 365 days a year for 5 years. And I started doing this I started taking photos at dawn, and I literally would take photos at dawn and at sunset. So I literally have been getting up at dawn every day for 5 years. Now I stopped doing that recently. You know, a few weeks ago I stopped doing that part. But for 5 years, basically, I have been getting up at dawn every day, and I never set an alarm to get up at dawn. I don't know if they like get inside my head, but like literally every day I would just like wake up at dawn, or just before dawn, or just right at the perfect time to go out and take photos. And once once you get enough light in the atmosphere, it becomes almost impossible to take photographs of orbs. Now, I literally have the ability to take orb photographs in the middle of the day, and I've done that before. I should have, darn, I wanted to get a picture of, I have a picture of me and David Hatcher Childress from Ancient Aliens TV on the History Channel.
Okay.
I met him, and I'm like, hey, you know, I'm an interdimensional researcher and everything. He's like, oh, really? He didn't know anything about interdimensional beings, really. And I said, hey, let me try and get some to show up. And literally in the middle of the day, it was like, you know, 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a bright sunny day. I took a few selfies with him, and sure enough, Orbs showed up. So that was kind of a good thing. It's on my, if anyone wants to see that, it's on my, I made a 45-minute documentary called Interdimensional, the documentary, UFOs, Orbs, and Giants. It's on my YouTube channel at goforitRandy. Anyways, you can see that photograph in there. But yeah, it's just filled with all kinds of encounters like this where I've encountered them in weird kind of things. I've taken photographs with them with bats, you know, up in the air, and there'll be a bat with 25 orbs around the bat, kind of a thing. Is there anything you want to say?
No, I was just kind of laughing. That's funny.
Oh,
Bats
yeah.
flying around, there's orbs around them too.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. Birds, all kinds of stuff. Lightning. I've taken lightning shots. So there's a lightning coming down, a big lightning bolt with orbs in the sky. I've gone out on 4th of July. So there's fireworks in the sky with orbs in the sky. So just all kinds of amazing things like that. But yeah, my life radically changed back then. And so that's kind of what's been happening. I've been seeing these interdimensional beings, and they started showing me things. They started, you know, all kinds of amazing things started happening. Let me see. Oh, one of the things before the orbs came into my life in 2013, around 2011, it was like I was another wake-up call. What happened was I was right here, and on my desk here, I set some coins down. I had a bunch of coins in my pocket, and there was like, you know, 7 quarters and about 5 or 6 nickels and about, you know, maybe 5 dimes. And I literally put the quarters on the bottom, then the nickels, then the dimes. And I literally made a little tower that was about this tall and straight up. And I went to bed. The next morning when I woke up, that thing was bent over like this. So the coins were made into a bridge over this little pyramid thing that I had right next to it. And that freaked me out. This was around 2000, because I've been watching all those ghost shows, the ghost hunter shows, and my doors were locked. So my door was locked. All my doors were locked. Like, no one came into my room that night. The only way they could come into my room was to come through the walls. So that blew me away, and that messed with my head. I literally put that up on YouTube, and a few hours later I took it down because it messed with my head. I wasn't ready for something like that. But that's what kind of started, was that kind of got me going. And then a few years later, I put out this video on crop circles in the desert. And this video, it's got like 700 and some thousand views on it now. But it was a crop circle. And in this crop circle, there was like these pyramid. There was a Sri Lanka Mandela formation in the middle of the desert in Australia. Or actually, this was yeah, it was Australia. Basically this thing was just like perfectly made. There was no tire tracks around it. It's like, who made this thing, you know, out in the middle of the desert? And it's got this formation that's over a quarter of a mile long, and deep 10-inch grooves in it. So what did they do with the dirt? I don't know, but it has these pyramid type formations inside there. And I found out later that this Sri Lanka Mandela formation is some kind of a thing that makes things happen. And I was wondering, well, after that happened was when strange things started happening in my life. And I literally believe I met an angel, a female angel, like not too long after that. So it's like, I don't know if like I've been prepared for this, but like people start showing up in my life. Things happen, but I literally walked into a Costco of all places. And I remember walking, and I went to the back and I got these oranges, and I saw like the most beautiful woman I have ever seen in my life. And I literally just walked right by her. That was it. I mean, it was like a 5 to 10 second encounter as she walked by. All I did was just walk right by her. And I told my brother, he was sitting in we went to have some food there when we got finished. And I told my brother, I said, hey, I just saw the most beautiful woman in the back there, just like you would not believe. I mean, she looks like a movie star or something. And so we're eating, and about 20 minutes later, she goes walking by. I said, there she is. And she didn't look at me, nothing. Walks out the building, gone. We finished our lunch, and about a half an hour, 45 minutes later, we go walking out of the Costco. And I go walking over to my car, and I look, and OMG, that woman is waiting for me out in the parking lot. And she comes walking over to me, and my brother is handicapped. He couldn't keep up with me. He was about 100 yards behind me. So she literally started talking to me, and my brother's kind of freaking out because he knows, like, what is going on here? And she literally told me some things, but I believe she was, like, sent here to, like, get me prepared for what was about to happen the next couple of years. Because she told me, you know, like, she was really proud of me and all this stuff, and just blew my mind. I'm just like, who are you, and why are you even talking to me? Because I was a 400-pound guy. Like, pretty women didn't come walking up to me back then.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's what blew my mind, was like, is this an angel or what? And so that was a big thing. And it just so happens a couple of years later was when all this started happening. So I don't know if it was like these things just every once in a while things happen. And I forgot to tell you, back 30 years ago, the one thing I forgot to tell you was amazing things started happening that you can relate to. Like, for example, I would just meet some of the most famous people in the world without any warning. They would just show up in my life. I was reading a book, and it had Anne Margaret in it. It was a magazine with Anne Margaret. And I'm reading this magazine, and Anne Margaret's in it. And I'm just like, oh, wow. You know, it was a Los Angeles magazine, I think. And I got finished with that thing, and I said, oh, I'm going to go down to the mall. And I go down to the mall, literally just, what, a half an hour, 45 minutes later. And I'm walking through the mall, and I'm just walking along, and I look next to me, and walking right next to me is Anne Margaret in the flesh. And I'm just like blown away. I'm like, you are not going to believe it, but I was just reading that article you did in Los Angeles magazine, and here you are. And so just that was mind blowing. One time, I don't know if you know who Debbie Fields is. Debbie Fields Cookies, Mrs. Fields Cookies. I saw her give an interview in Los Angeles on the news, and I went down to a Mrs. Fields Cookies right after the interview, and I'm waiting in line. I get these cookies, and I go to pay for them, and guess who comes out from behind the back? Mrs. Fields herself, Debbie Fields. She'd just been to the interview and went right to that store where I was at, and she's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you saw the show. I was like, yeah. She gave me all this free stuff, a book and stuff, and all the food and everything, so it was cool. But that's happened over and over and over. Anthony Robbins. I ran into Anthony Robbins. And that guy radically changed my life. I ended up going to a seminar of his. But, yeah, I kept running into Anthony Robbins and things like that. And that's how I got my name, goforitRandy, was because I went to one of his firewalk seminars. And I'm standing there, and he got these burning hot, 1,200-degree coals in front of me, 12 foot of coals to walk across barefoot. And so just before I go across, he says, go for it, Randy. And so that's where I got my name, goforitRandy. But anyway, so that's kind of big, the really cool thing. Amazing people have shown up into my life. And then just to tie this into you, Joe, about a week ago, I've not given an interview in over a year. And I'm like, man, I want to start giving interviews again. So I literally just put the thought out there. I told my girlfriend, hey, I want to start giving interviews. But I only want to give interviews to people who have larger channels than I do. And sure enough, 2 or 3 days later, I get a call from Joe. He's interested and wants to do an interview with me. So that's how this all happened.
See, and my thing where you're talking about meeting these people, coincidence, there's no way. That's how my life's been this year. Several months ago, it started where I'm meeting like psychic Michelle White Dove, and now this lady Sharon Michelle. I talked to Penny Kelly. I'm talking to you. Like, this path is like right in front of my face, and like, wow. And then you're telling me that like, oh, a week ago you're ready to start doing interviews. Here comes old Jason M4 knocking on the door. What the hell? How could that happen? Because if I was a week or two earlier, you would have been like, no thanks, or maybe not have even replied. Like,
yeah,
man,
probably
the
not.
Timing, everything. It's happening when it's supposed to. It's so crazy.
And that's the way it works. And people need to just start realizing when this kind of thing happens, when you have little things like, oh, I know I put my keys there, and then they're not there when you put them there. Well, chances are you probably did put them there, and someone else moved them. And I'm not talking about someone physical. I'm saying someone spiritual from another dimension can literally move things, because I've had things like that happen too. So one of the things that I've learned, the biggest thing that I've learned, is that trust your instincts more. When you have some kind of an encounter, when you have some kind of a, like, oh, you're thinking of your best friend and you haven't talked to your best friend in months, let's say, and you're thinking about them, and then all of a sudden your best friend calls. Well, that's very real. So like literally you linked up somehow on some other dimension or something. And I have seen this happen over and over and over and over. And again, I've seen amazing things. I'm going to jump to a few years ago. I'm going to tell you about another amazing thing that happened to me. This one, I didn't get this on tape. By the way, almost everything that I tell you about are things that I have on camera. So I have a lot of this stuff on my channel at goforitRandy, so you can see this stuff. But this is one of the things that I didn't get on tape. My brother and I, we went to go to a bicycle shop in Cave Creek a few years ago. A friend of mine had told me about it, kind of told me the area, and I don't have a cell phone, never have had a cell phone ever in my life, so we don't have navigational and all that kind of stuff, so we really just have to find it the old school way. But I didn't even have an address. I was just told where it was, the city it was in, and kind of a general area. It's kind of a small little town. But anyways, we go driving down the main street, and I'm trying to look for it, and my brother's driving, I'm in the passenger seat, and we're driving down. I happen to look, oh, there it is across the street over there as we're driving by at 40 miles an hour. And so I saw the building on the corner. My brother saw it on the corner. It had a big sign on it with a big bicycle wheel on it. And I'm like, cool, there it is right there. Go down to that next intersection and turn around. And he went down to the next intersection, turns around. We come back and we make a right turn on that street. It's on the corner. And we stopped right on the corner. And I look around and the building is not there. And I'm just like, whoa, what's going on here? And my brother's like freaking out too, like what's going on here? So my first thought was, there's no way this building is gone. I'm thinking we didn't go far enough. We need to go one more block down to the next block. So we literally drove by this pancake house down to the next block, and sure enough, no way, it wasn't down there. And not only that, we're way far the way down the street. There's no way it could possibly be down here. It has to be back where we were just at. So we literally got back on the main road where we came down and saw it the first time, and this time we go back, and it is there. So literally 2 minutes later, this thing had rematerialized. It literally disappeared and was gone, and I was just mind-blown. And I don't know what happened, but that's the first and only time where I kind of felt missing time.
Do you feel like maybe it's possible that I don't know what they call it, a time warp, maybe where you went there, saw a different period of time when the building didn't exist? Because I had a friend that had an interesting story when he was young. He told me at his grandma's house, which I've been to her house when we were younger, and he was describing all the scenery he saw and this old church that was in the background, and there's people going to a funeral, and he's like, me and my buddy Mike, we've seen this 1,000 times. We played in these woods. There's not big woods. It's not like acres and acres. It's just a small amount of woods. Where the hell is that, and where did this creek come from? I don't remember ever seeing anyone in running water. And they go past it a little bit, and there's this old lady comes out of this nasty old house and starts screaming at him, "Get the hell out of here before I take your dogs!" So they start running, and his dog follows him. My buddy's dog, the other buddy, didn't follow him. They never saw the dog again. So they came out all out of breath. Grandma, you know, this just happened. She's like, all right, settle down. She just thought, you know, imagination, boys, whatever. So one day, her neighbor, who's like 80-something years old, lived there his whole life, she's relaying this story about the kids running in, and he's like, hold on, what color was the church? Oh, yeah, really? Huh. And what about that lady, the dog? Really? He says, yeah, there used to be a church back there, right where your nephew or whatever said, and it burned down. We all were sure it was arson from the old lady we thought was a witch that collected a bunch of animals. And we don't ever know what happened. So when he described where they saw this in the creek and everything, it's all there. So you can actually still see the indention of the creek. Anyway, so they were physically there. They physically saw these things. Lady came out screaming at them about taking their dogs. One dog never ever came back home. Like to this day, you know, it was gone forever. The other one did follow him, but they were terrified. And then it was like months later where the grandma was relaying the story to the neighbor, and the neighbor grew up there as a kid. It was in his 80s. And said, yeah, there was a church. There was a lady that was, we all called her a witch. She was this mean old lady. She did collect these animals, a bunch of animals at her house. And I'm going to tell you, when I said, all right, well, I was like, take me back there. You know, I wasn't interested. So he takes me back there. You know, we're older now. You know, I'm like 20, 21. He's, I think, 18 or so. And I'm like, all right, you told me the story, so I go back there, and he's like, yeah, you can see the creek bed. And I'm like, yeah, you can see that. Okay, there's nothing in there now. It's all dried up. And he takes me to the fence line. He's like, all right there is where we saw the church, about, you know, a couple 100 yards out from that way, in that big old cow field out there. Okay. He goes, all right. So the old lady's house was right over here. So we start walking this way. and it's kind of like a brushy tree, branches overhanging, and we kind of, no one's mowing back there. It's like in the woods. So
Right.
I get back there, and I kind of get through the weeds a little bit, and the feeling in me is like, this feels like bad. Like this is a bad spot.
Right.
I can feel it. I'm looking around. I'm noticing everywhere where he's saying this lady's property is just like if you had to make a movie set of an old witch mean lady, you'd have all this overgrown, you know, dark colored. You wouldn't have nice green stuff growing. Yet everywhere outside of this little perimeter was green and growing, you know, grass and just things in the woods. And I'm like, wow. And I'm like, wow, I can actually feel this. Like, all right, let's get the hell out of here. I don't like the way I'm feeling. Like, let's get the hell out of here. So we kind of stepped out of there and started heading back. And I started feeling a lot better. But I was like, damn. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. I just felt something. I experienced it, and I had, you know, hair standing up and stuff. And so, anyways, that whole story for you was, I wonder if what you experienced was something like that, where it was a previous time in history, yet you're still driving and you're still there. You're not like asleep. You know, they know what they saw. You know, I wonder. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There are, you know, there's, I've seen that happen before where people like Civil War type situations, like where the Gettysburg happened. There have been ghost hunters that have literally captured like whole squads of like guys with their armor and everything, and their gun rifles over their shoulder, and the flag and everything, the Confederate flag and stuff like that, and they're walking through a field on video. So literally, yeah, things like that can happen, and I'm not sure exactly if it's residual stuff that just keeps replaying over and over again throughout time. I'm not sure.
But once you went back, it was there. Finally, it was there.
Yeah, it was there. Once we went back, it was there, and and the thing was, you know, I'm a guy who loves talking about this stuff, but that is the only time where it was the old bicycle shop. So they had a new bicycle shop. So there was no bikes. No one was inside the building. So I went up to the door because it had a note on that to where the new one was. And I literally read where the map was to go to the new one. We went to the new one. And when I went there, normally I would have said, hey, you know what? I was just back at your old place and it disappeared. The building's gone. But I was so freaked out. I'm like, well, I'm not talking to him about anything. Even my brother, he was freaked out. And for years, he wouldn't even talk about it. I would say, hey, Rob, remember the building? No, I don't want to talk about it. Like, it freaked him out. Because, you know, it's just not normal to have something like that happen. But yeah, one thing I can say about when you have those kind of feelings, pay attention to those feelings. When you get a gut feeling, when you get this feeling, a negative kind of feeling inside you, pay attention to that. And, you know, I would get out of there wherever you're at. If you're in a place like that and you feel any kind of negative vibrational energy like that, I wouldn't want to hang around there. I'll give you an example. I had a good friend of mine, a female who had a new guy friend in her life. Anyways, this guy, I didn't know him from Adam, and it turns out he was a bad guy. And one day I go to meet her, and I see her car out in front of my house, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I go and look, and he's inside, and he steps out of the driver's side of her car, and I'm like, oh, okay. I say, hey, how you going? How you doing? You know, I knew the guy, but didn't know him very well. But all of a sudden, I got this really negative energy, like, whoa, like I could feel like something messed up, and I didn't know exactly what was going on. But he's smiling, acting like everything's fine. I'm like, hey, how you doing? He's like, hey, fine, and on. But I could sense, like, whoa, this really bad feeling inside me. And finally, I just asked him, you know, where's my friend? And he said, none of your business. And all of a sudden, this guy changed and became this wild man. And literally, I thought, whoa, this guy is not the same guy. He literally changed on a dime. And turns out he was having a big argument fight with my friend. And I don't know what all was going on, but my friend was definitely in a panic kind of mode. And I went to try and help her, and she wouldn't even let me open the door to get her out. So point is, if you ever have any kind of a negative emotional feeling, like you walk into a place and you get a bad feeling, walk right out the door, get out of there. Because, you know, that's something is trying to warn you that something's about to happen or something could happen. But it's a good idea to always, you're not supposed to feel bad feelings. So when you do feel bad feelings, it's because you're picking up on something negative.
Well, let's get into these other giant photos, if we will, because I got to get ready to run here shortly.
Oh, okay, sure.
Let's do this first one. It almost to me looks like a could be a giant butterfly, a bat, a dragon-looking thing. I'm not really sure, but that's, I mean, it's massive if you look at it.
Yeah.
You know, if someone said, well, that's a chemtrail or that's a cloud. Like, I mean, seriously?
Yeah.
You know?
I have the photograph that was taken just before this, like 25 seconds before this, and it's totally blue sky. I should have showed you that one too. But yeah, there was no clouds in the sky this day. But the cool thing about this is that this is about a half a mile away. And this is my neighborhood where I live. But what happened was I'm inside my house, and all of a sudden I got this. It doesn't happen very often. Months and months, years go by sometimes for something. But on this day, I got the message, grab your camera, Randy, like literally a thought, like grab your camera, go outside. I grabbed it, ran out to the patio, and this is what I captured out there. And at first, I didn't see anything. I'm like, well, what's out here? And then all of a sudden, this thing showed up off into the west, and I took a photograph of it, and I was just blown away. Because as you can see here, it looks like it's like a big circular portal there. And then it looks like inside the portal, like something coming out. But I'm not sure now. It looks like there's a face there, and I can't really point this out to you. Yeah. Well, no, up there is where the horns are. You can kind of see horns there. Yeah, that's a horn there. That one, and then one over to the right is another horn. But literally, this looks like horns, and like there's eyes down there, a little bit lower than that. There's like two eyes. There's like dark circles down towards the bottom. No, down much lower.
Oh,
like just above the roof of that. Yeah, yeah. Just to the left of that, that dark, just to the left of that. There, yeah,
okay.
Right there. No, just to the right of that. Just where that dark, yeah, right there. That's it, right there. That's his that would be the right eye, his right eye. And then the other eye is just a little bit over to the other side over there. You'll see like a, but anyways, that in between there, you can see that's his eye right there. But anyhow, I'm not sure what this is, but I believe this could be a dragon or something. Like I have seen dragons before.
All right, everybody, okay. But I've looked at this the other day when you sent me this, and even right now, and what I'm seeing right now, I now see it.
Yeah.
When I first saw this, I was like, oh, what is this? This is like a butterfly wing, and there's a little antenna for the butterfly, like whatever this. That's what I first saw. What I'm now seeing, now that you made that point, this right here is an eyeball. Here's the other. Here's the other eyeball.
The other eye right there.
This would be like the nose or mouth area kind of a thing.
Right.
And this is like a giant ear or a giant something on its face. Wow.
Yeah, correct. So now that's what it is.
You almost have to turn your head a little bit to the left.
That's a half a mile away from my camera at least, and then it's at least, I don't know, 1,000 feet tall there. I don't know how high is
massive.
that.
Yeah, massive.
Yeah, and the bottom line is I don't know that it's a half a mile. It could be 3 or 4 miles away, which would make it even bigger. So however big it is, it's gigantic. It's the biggest giant that I've taken photographs of, and I've photographed about 10 giants to date. Most of the giants are around 50 feet tall, believe it or not. And one of them just freaked me out. Just a few. This was I think 2016. I went out. I went down to. We were having a party down by the pool, and a friend was singing rock music and stuff like that, playing rock music on a guitar and singing. And I don't know if that's what attracted these beings, but for whatever reason, giants showed up. And a friend of mine, I said, hey, come over here. I'm going to take a picture, and I'm going to show you something that you're going to remember for the rest of your life. And I went and took a photograph, and then all of a sudden, this giant being showed up that's like his face, literally the face was 25 feet wide. Over here was a horn that was about 10 feet long. So this is in my documentary, Interdimensional, the documentary. And you can literally see this thing, but it's gigantic. And it appears to be like a serpent-like being. It's human. And you can see the eyes. It has like human-like looking eyes on it. And they're wide, like, you know, like my eyes are close together. The eyes are like really far apart, and the face is like really wide like this. But it is mind-blowing, and that didn't scare me. I actually laughed at him, and I don't know. This is what I believe. This is a fallen angel. It's talked about in the ancient text. They talk about the fallen angels, and basically they're disembodied spirits of giant beings that used to be here on Earth thousands of years ago. When they died, their spirits were left walking the Earth. So they're very real. And again, I've photographed about 10 of them now. And I don't know what else to tell you other than they're gigantic. And these are mean-looking beings. I mean, some of them are just like nasty-looking beings. So I have very few encounters like that. I was standing on my patio, you know, a few months after that, and this big snake being, just imagine a gigantic snake on the second floor. I'm on my patio looking out on the second floor, and imagine 10 feet in front of me is this huge snake head about 10 feet wide that's coming from the sky, by the way, coming down.
Similar to what we just saw, kind of a...
Similar to what we just saw, except right in my face. And its face was about, like I said, about 10 feet wide on that one. And you could see the slant eyes on both sides of it. It had like snake eyes and everything. But that was mind-blowing. That blew my mind. And then just all kinds of other things started happening. But yeah, so giants are very real. I want everyone to know they're very real. And according to the ancient text, supposedly these things might manifest into physical beings again sometime in our future. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but if it does, wow, I can't even imagine. But let me tell you about some of the other things that I filmed too. So interdimensional beings covers a wide spectrum variety of things, sylphs, rods, fairies. Okay, I've taken photographs of fairies. I have friends of mine who actually have videotaped fairies. So I have video footage on my channel.
And I saw that. I saw that one lady, the thing's flying around, like her feet and face, and she's like just following it. You can see it. This little thing flying around. And the kid, little kid with the hat, little Santa hat, little kid, it goes right up to her face. I saw it.
Yeah, that was like a blue being there. Yeah. That was one of those blue beings that has like a little blue Santa hat on it and a blue face, and he's like riding a sleigh. It's like, I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. But yeah. But my friend, I've got friends that that have a connection with elementals and things like that, which fairies are part of that kind of thing. But these fairies, I'll tell you, a friend of mine, Michelle Brakeman, she has video footage that I have on my channel. It's just mind-blowing. It's on that interdimensional documentary. Where there's literally hundreds of these little winged beings that are like made out of some kind of plasma energy or something. And these beings literally are flying around, and you can see them flying around. They're running into things. She's got an Adirondack chair in the back, and it hits the chair and bounces off. There's like hundreds of them. And I'm like right there live on camera. You see these things fly over to the patio in the backyard, and she films this whole thing. And they literally, the patio, she has these hexagon-shaped tiles on the patio in the backyard, and cement is underneath the tiles. All of these hundreds of these little winged beings from another dimension literally flew over in a formation, and simultaneously they all just went right down through the concrete patio floor and vanished into another dimension, literally teleported from our reality into some other reality right there on video camera. So that is just absolute. And it looks, I don't know if you saw the movie Field of Dreams. Did you see that movie?
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Remember the scene where the baseball players are out in the field, and then when they wrap up and they want to go back home, they go into the corn, and they all just kind of like melt into the corn and just like disappear into the corn. It was that kind of a thing. You literally can see them like disappear right before your eyes, just like vanish as they go through the concrete. So, so those are very real. Fairies. A lot of my friends who have like gardens in their backyard that are just filled with all these beautiful flowers and shrubbery and everything like that. Well, there's a good chance you probably have some fairies in your backyard back there.
You just might not be able to see them. Some people, I guess.
You can't. Most of the time, you can't see them. However, some of them are actually physical beings. So there's two different kinds of fairies. You have light fairies, which are made out of light, literally like plasma energy. And those are very difficult to see. In fact, the only time that my friends have captured those have been when they literally do photography like into the sunlight. And in the sunlight, the light from the sun is able to show them up. So sometimes when they're filming, and if there's enough sunlight, one of these fairies will come through and you can actually see them fly through the scene. But she has this one video footage that's just mind-blowing. Fairy comes in, flies around, goes up, and there's like this post, and he puts 1 foot on the post and then just goes and pushes off this post. And this is all on video. And then it comes around and flies, and it goes through this bush. So you clearly see what looks like.
Do you have the videos, or are they seen somewhere else, like on another channel?
No, I have these videos. You can see all of this that I'm talking about. All of these things are in my documentary movie. It's a 45-minute documentary movie that I just made just a few weeks ago called Interdimensional, the Documentary, UFOs, Orbs, and Giants. So on that documentary,
on YouTube right now.
Yeah, it's on YouTube right now. If you go to GoForItRandy, make it one word, GoForItRandy, you can see this video right now. It's 45 minutes long. And you'll see these beings going through the floor, and the fairies going through the floor, and the light fairy, and the giants. You're going to see that kind of stuff. And then thousands, literally millions. In that video, in that documentary, I literally have a claim. You're going to see over 1 million interdimensional beings in one movie. So that alone is enough to get you to go on.
Yeah, and I'll tell everybody.
So all kinds of things.
I haven't seen it myself, but I'm looking forward to watching this thing because it sounds very interesting. Yeah. Let's go to that fourth one because I really got to get ready to cut out here soon. So this fourth one, what do you think this was?
This is like a giant, and I don't know if it's like a giant rhinoceros, but it kind of looks like one. But just to kind of give you the playing field here, over here to the right side of this photograph, you're going to see these like branches. It almost look like one, branches or something. That's actually a patio covering. So that's the roof of an outdoor type patio that's covering actually some plants and stuff. So that's about 7 or 8 feet tall. This being, now back behind those bushes over to the left there, you're going to see what looks like a grayish looking giant rhinoceros back there. Yeah, that's like, you can see that's part of the actual mouth area there. But that thing has got to be at least 15 to 20 feet tall, because it's another 20 feet beyond this structure here. And so there's some trees that are in the background. You can't see it here, but judging from everything there, I figure this thing's about 15 to 20 feet tall. So we're talking about a giant interdimensional being of some kind. I don't know what it is, but that's another one. Recently, I had some things with yoga. I had a friend of mine who did some yoga, and on her back, literally, beings started showing up on video. So there was this being that looks like Yoda on her back. It's like a demon, to be honest with you. It's got ears just like Yoda does going out the side. I mean, looks just like it. But the reason I think it could be a demon is because I saw one of those gargoyle things on top of these high-rise buildings, these old buildings they built like in New York. Yep. And this gargoyle looks exactly like this being. So all kinds of stuff like that. But so yeah, basically you have all different kinds of interdimensional beings. I've taken photographs of wormholes. So wormholes are real. When I drive down the street, literally there are sometimes hundreds of interdimensional beings, UFOs, flying out ahead of my car. And they're literally showing the way home. So literally they're guiding me home on my way home for wherever I'm going, So really an interesting story to share. I have not even begun to touch into all the things. So if you want to really capture the whole story here and find out what's really going on, I'd stop on my channel at goforitRandy and check out all this stuff because there's so much more that I could talk to you about with this stuff.
Yeah, so we're weaning some people into weird woo-woo stuff. Even my wife,
yeah,
before we went to ESETI, it was, we got this book from Michelle White Dove, and one of the books she gave us was about fairies and gnomes, and my wife, she's like, this Journey of Souls book that I've read, and the stuff she says is just the same. She's like, but then I got this one about the fairies and the gnomes, and I felt like, oh no, I don't believe in any of this. But then we went to ESETI. Mm-hmm. We saw some of the photos some of the people had taken of different things. I think I showed you last time that little gnome creature thing with the staff and and after my wife had talked with her and saw a whole bunch of other photos she had, we kind of left there saying, you know what?
I think there's something to this.
Very much so. So we said, okay, that was kind of needed that, But again, it's all my process of meeting this person. Next thing I know, Jean-Claude's coming to my house. Hey, let's go to ESETI. Let's go. And this weird kind of circle of events has happened all this year and fairly recently. And now you're part of it too. So there's something going on. Your story needs to get out. And I'm sure there's going to be people who hear some of this and say, oh, that's freaking ridiculous. And that's fine. That's maybe whatever. But there's something in here that I think a lot of people need to hear. And it may not be all of what you said, maybe some of what you said, but then again, maybe it is everything you just said and a whole lot more that you haven't yet, because
Yeah.
we may not be on that level yet to hear some of the other stuff, but I think we'll have some other interviews in the future to come, hopefully.
Let's do it. Yeah, there's a whole lot more I could share with you.
And not only that, are you planning on going to any seminars anytime soon that you know of?
No, not really. If I do, I'd like to give one. I'd love it if people would ask me to come up on stage and share my story, because I have a very compelling story to share. And again, you haven't even heard a fraction of it. So it goes on into other things and other things that are happening. I mean, just really quickly,
Sure.
you know, everyone knows about the number 33. And it's been popping up into my life. And if you look at our conversation this morning, when you got back to me, like I answered you and it was 7:33 when I answered you back there, because you just talked to me, and as soon as I could answer back, it was 7:33. And anyways, I see this number 33 like 1, 2, 3, 4 times a day on the actual clock. So a few times a day. So whatever, someone to reach me. And I went and looked into this, and so I don't know what all is going on with this, but obviously the dark side uses this number 33. They advertise it everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, the Bank of America logo, if you don't know, there's there's like these two lines going down this way, 2 lines going that way, and 2 lines going that way. That's 3 11s.
Yeah.
3 times 11 is 33. So they're hiding this stuff in plain sight. So I could go into all kinds of things with logos. You know, all the biggest logos in the world have these hidden messages in them that I see as well. So I see those hidden messages, and then I see the interdimensional stuff. And so it's just like I'm trying to put all of this stuff together to see. But right now there is an interdimensional shift that's taking place down here on Earth. And I'm telling you, someday I think everyone's going to be able to see these things.
Okay, cool. Well, listen, we'll have to do it again. If you happen to get any kind of new video or photo that's like, oh my God, Joe, send it my way. I'd love to take a look and maybe share it with people, you know. And if we end up, or some way in the future, I end up meeting you, whether it's a seminar or something, I'd love to do the power transfer, the orb transfer. That would be unbelievable. I love that stuff. You know, like just to say, oh my God, guys, look, I took my own photos. Check this out. That would be so neat.
Yeah. So anyone who wants to check it out, they can just go to my YouTube channel, goforitRandy, and you'll find you're going to be blown away when you see the videos that I have there, because I have hundreds of videos. So it'll be amazing to catch up over there.
All right. Yeah. So again, go check his 45-minute video out. It's all one word: goforitRandy. And I'll be watching it too. So, all right, my friend, till we meet again.
Take care, Joe. Have fun.
Take it easy. Bye.